A few weeks ago, President Trump decreed via his social media app that credit card companies should cap interest rates at 10% for a year. This week, he asked Congress to take up the issue, and it's getting the backing of the unlikely likes of Senator Elizabeth Warren, but banks say would effectively cut off access to credit for millions of Americans. Let's talk about it with David McGarry. He's the research director for the Taxpayers Protection Alliance. Back up late with me tonight here on the Final Five. David, welcome back to the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
Okay, we've been looking at this from many different angles, and there are people that say credit card companies have been abusing consumers for too long with 30% interest rates, but there's also an argument to be made by way of these companies saying, look, this is how we operate, and the reality is some people would not get a credit card if not for for a cap.
Well, the funny thing about populist economic policies, irrespective of the party or the politician pushing them, is that they want to secure for consumers all sorts of goods and services at affordable prices, but they really have no idea of the economic institutions and associations and other things that are necessary to make those goods and services affordable. So in the case of credit, it's all well and good to say that no credit card company should charge more than 10% on interest, but from a pure standpoint of Economics 101, the result of such a policy would be for nearly, potentially, 200 million Americans to lose access to credit, anybody with a credit score below about 740 to lose access altogether or see their credit be significantly decreased. And there's simply no way of getting around the basic laws of economics. They govern all of us. They are a fact of life, whether or not politicians like it.
When you look at, and that's a good point you raise about the credit scores. I think anybody who's gone through the process of applying for a mortgage or a car loan or credit cards knows that that's the yardstick. That's what companies base a lot of things on, and that's often, most of the time, a direct reflection of how good of a consumer you are and how worthy you are of credit and how well you use credit. Do you abuse it? When you look at that sort of risk-based interest rate there, I mean, is there a happy medium? Is there an interest rate cap that would work in a case like this, or is a cap a bad idea altogether?
Generally speaking, price controls fail to achieve their ends while simultaneously causing a lot of economic havoc along the way. And price controls on interest, which is what President Trump's proposal amounts to, would work no differently. Banks take huge losses on credit cards. The fact is that although it's little understood, one of the major services that financial institutions provide is to assume all of this risk and to take the losses that come with that assumption. And part of what that means is that they must be free in order to keep access as widely available as possible to price that risk accordingly. And that means that some Americans who have a higher likelihood of perhaps not paying back their debts on time will in fact face a higher interest rate.
There is some talk that along the way, companies that are looking at this in one way or another, and there was a report that Bank of America was possibly looking at something. We know that in the case of Jamie Dimon at JP Morgan Chase, he said that it's a non-starter from the get-go. There might be other companies willing to look at something that would have a lower interest rate, but it would strip away some of the perks that a lot of credit cards get. You know, you wouldn't be able to earn points. You wouldn't have certain travel protections on that. I mean, is that something that could be coming down the pipeline if these companies, not necessarily saying it's because of the result of a government edict, but if they decide to put something out and strip away some of those perks that a lot of people get with their credit cards, is that a good move as long as the government doesn't get involved?
Well, I might quibble with your phrasing, the government not getting involved, because even informal pressure, couched, or I should say, informal pressure behind which is couched an implicit regulatory threat is a coercive measure of government. And we've seen this throughout administrations, very notably in the Biden administration. But a quick tour through history reveals that financial institutions make for great political scapegoats. But the question we really should be asking is, how will this affect consumers? And besides the consumers that would lose access to credit, many more consumers will also lose access to the kinds of perks that differentiate credit cards and that consumers like and that actually increase competition in the credit card market.
Dave McGarry joining us from the Taxpayers Protection Alliance. By the way, quibble away anytime you're on the show. I appreciate that, because these are questions here that I think a lot of people have, and sort of sorting through that myself with all this going on. So I appreciate the perspective on this one. Good to see you tonight.
Thanks so much.
And the Final Five is back right after this.